You've got mail.
Good morning, everybody. You are tuned on to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next couple of hours, along with Gal. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
And Katie's here.
Good morning.
And Nick is here.
I am also here. Good morning.
And surprise, surprise, Spence is here.
The shell of Spencer's here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our
Oh,
numbers.
Good morning, everybody.
919-518-9773. Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And today's show is made possible by vMix Software and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear.
I would like to talk about the PTO policy of this show and how Spence was able to leave for a month,
Yeah, I know.
and there's been no ramifications.
How do you know that?
Who told you?
Amnon, did you get my Cash App?
No.
So Spence, you were traveling all over the damn place. What was the you seem like you had pretty decent connectivity. Can you talk about that?
On the ship, I was on StarLink,
Really?
Wow.
and it was amazing. And did you see the post I put on Signal about
I did.
how they reduced their latency? We could see the difference because we were on the ship up through as they were working on it. And I was getting on my phone about 12 down and 6 up in the middle of the ocean. I mean, we were cruising sometimes 2 days or more without a stop. So we were out in the middle of nowhere.
That's impressive.
And what
when I
was the
was-
latency?
Oh, that was what they were working on. Latency was 20, 25.
Okay.
Not bad. But they got it down to into the teens or even lower.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know how they did it. But I looked around. I could not find an identifiable antenna on the ship. They still had the old satellite domes, but I couldn't figure out what was the new antenna because it's obviously hardened for the ocean. So, but I couldn't tell. I should have asked a crew member to point it out to me. But
How much was it? Because that's always there's been decent connectivity on ships via satellite for a while, but it's been wildly expensive to get access to.
yeah, I paid for the entire trip for 4 devices.
Okay.
And it was about 107. I had a discount because of my status. So it was about $170.
For the whole trip?
Yeah.
That's incredibly cheap.
Yeah, normally it's 3 something.
Well,
For
before that, I
the
remember being hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Oh, it was
for
ridiculous,
just
and it was
7
terrible.
or 9 days. Like
Terrible.
$300-$400.
Yeah.
The last cruise ship I was on, it cost about $30 a day to have
Ooh.
crappy internet.
why 4 devices, Spence?
That was it was either 1 or 4.
Oh,
So you
that's weird.
could switch between like if I wanted Pam to switch, we could go and claim the connection. But we both brought our iPads, and so I just said I'm
Yeah.
going to upgrade to that.
and do you
Originally, I purchased.
how
I'm
much
sorry.
would it have been if it was just for 1? You know?
Not much less than that.
Yeah.
Because the discount applied to the 4 plan.
Yeah.
So-
Ah, nice.
and on land, I was using the AT&T international plan.
Yeah, how'd that work? What was
And
that like?
that worked good because you were on local. There's a network called One in
Mhm.
New Zealand, and we were on that for most of the stops. We didn't go on every day. You would choose at the end of each day before you rolled over to midnight. Made sure we turned. Well, actually, when we left the port, we turned the cellular off because if you came into port and it was on, you'd automatically be buying it that day. So we only did it on certain days.
How much was that?
That was $10 a day, and then 5 for the second phone.
Gotcha.
It was
okay, so-
crazy, but that would be up to if you used it for more than 10 days and you didn't pay again until the end of your billing cycle.
Interesting. Okay.
Most you would pay. I know people that have T-Mobile, and T-Mobile, when you go international, is free. You don't pay anything, which I thought that it's both Verizon and AT&T have exactly the same plan. and it's
Yeah.
ridiculously expensive. So I thought about buying a burner phone, and I said it
A
wasn't
lot
worth
of
it.
people, you get not even the burner phone, you buy the burner SIM. You get the
Yeah,
preloaded SIM from
yeah.
whatever country you're going to. And I think, I don't know how it works now, but if you have an iPhone, you can do eSIM. I don't know I don't know if you can do burner eSIM. I'm not really sure how that
Mm.
works.
But we were happy with our connectivity everywhere we went, so
Excellent.
didn't have any issues.
What was the most intensive thing you did um, with the ship's Wi-Fi? Did
Oh,
you
I
do
was
any video calls or anything?
uploading video to Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
Uh, that that was better than I thought, and I was
Mhm.
actually installing. My iPad had been, you know how they save space on iOS by uninstalling an app, but
Sure.
it's still there and it holds the configuration. So if you need to use it, you click on it, it downloads the app. It was several times I did that, and it didn't take long.
Did you notice during peak times that bandwidth
Yes,
would drop?
yes. When everybody in the evening, like when you're waiting to watch one of the production shows at night, usually they're at 7:30 and 9:30. That's when, because everybody is sitting in the theater, you see 400 screens of people sitting there
Yeah.
waiting for the show to start, and they're doing whatever they're doing. And so that was the time you saw a delay because there was so many people using it. But I have to say, with 3,000 passengers on the ship, um, it was pretty good.
What would
Eh,
you say? You say half of them had the service? More?
Oh, I don't
Less?
know. I think a lot of people had it. The
Yeah.
higher the status you get with Princess cruises, more cruises you take, the cheaper the internet gets till the point where I think used to be they gave it to you free once you got to a certain point, but what they do is they heavily discount it.
Gotcha.
So, huh.
wasn't there something about that it's not really for streaming, they say?
Well, I thought that too, and I was able to watch videos on people's Facebook, no problem,
Okay.
and watch my own stuff. Now, I didn't try. What I'm trying to think of, did I actually go to Netflix and try it?
It doesn't matter. I mean, but it does work.
Oh, it used to be that you were very locked on the old satellite system. You were really locked down, and plus the speeds were horrendous
Okay. So that brings me to another question. Why didn't you come into the show?
because of the time difference.
Oh, what time difference? Come on. I mean, it's always at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, which is like 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning for me. It's 18 hours ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
8.
I thought about it. I did. There were a
No,
couple
I'm
times,
just
but
kidding.
I was having so much trouble sleeping when I got there because of the time difference. The first 2 days, we actually went in 2 days early just so we could sleep in a hotel and try to come around. It took about a week to get back to normal. And then now we're going through that same week again. But coming in this direction is harder than going the other direction.
Did you FaceTime any of your kids or
Oh
anything?
yeah, yeah.
And
We had
how did that work?
great.
Okay.
It worked good. Yeah, and we got call. I was getting phone calls. Oh, here's an interesting thing. Forgot about this. I had a debit card that I brought with me because I thought if I needed to take cash out at a ATM, I'd have that with me. Well, the one day I get off the ship with that card, thinking I'm going to get money, and I didn't use it, it got sniffed. So
Jeez.
that night, I started to get alerts from my credit union saying, we think there's fraud on your card. I actually got a phone call, and I called them back. And sure enough, somebody bought a video game in the UK or tried to.
Oh, sorry about
And
that. Yeah,
yeah,
my apologies.
Wait, how could they get your information if you never used the card, or did you use
because
the card?
this was an older version of the original wireless cards that had the chip in it that you could touch the top of the credit card machine with. And these were the ones that were most exposed, where you could just walk by somebody and they could ping it and pull the information off the card. That's the only explanation. I never used it.
Wow.
And so my credit card was fine because that's got the newer chip in it, and apparently that's got some more security built in. And the new credit cards, I went to the credit union to get new. They can make new cards for you right there now. Just say, I
Yeah,
need a
mine
new
mine does
card.
that too, which is
Yeah,
cool.
it's amazing. So I got new cards, and they said we don't do the radio chips anymore. But what you can do, and they say they have a big sign up for Apple Pay, Google Pay, one of those, and just use that. Don't use the um,
I
actual
use
card.
Apple Pay a lot.
I've used it more and more. Yeah,
I'm trying to think. I mean, outside of dinner, or going out to dinner or going to a bar where obviously you're giving your card to somebody, I'm almost 100% exclusively using Apple Pay. At the gas stations I go to Food Line is where I shop. I use it there. Harris Teeter, Publix, Lowe's, all of those places. I'm doing it all through Apple Pay because
every time.
my bank doesn't do the tap. It's a small credit union, so they don't do the tap either for the cards. Even
Now,
gas stations, like the gas Circle K, just they have the reader. You just double tap the lock button, and that's how I
what's
pay for gas.
what's nice about it is the Apple Pay. It's a virtual card number, so it can only be that card. The number that's used for that transaction is a one time only. Which is so if somebody
Really?
was to capture it, they can't use it.
Hmm.
So they do by default what sometimes we try to do through some kind of service that gives you a different number every time.
That's my understanding. That that's
Uh,
how it
Yeah.
works.
yeah, I'm curious about that. 'Cause
Wow.
Check that because I remember in the beginning when I first set it up.
now there's two different things. There's Apple Pay with Apple's card, and with that, it will do numbers. But if you
No.
just link your debit card to Apple Pay, I believe it's your card number. I could be wrong though.
Well, your
Yeah,
card number is the one that's going to be charged, but the transaction itself, uh, the seller does not get your number.
Really?
yeah. That's
Huh.
that's what I knew. I knew something was there that protected you. Yeah,
That's the
it's,
whole idea. It's like that's the way they managed, I think, to push this. Because remember, they're an additional third party uh, um, transaction processor, right? They get a part of the transaction fee. So the way they managed to convince the world to allow them to do that was by making it more secure. That's
what
the
else?
Google Pay and the Apple Pay. That whole concept.
Did you know that Garmin has their own pay now because of their Fitbits? Garmin Pay, and
Oh,
this
that would make
'cause-
sense. Yeah.
yeah, and there's one other one that's another wearable device company. I don't
There's the
remember what the name
Samsung
is.
one, right? As well.
Samsung,
There's
that's it. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Apple Pay, and I know Google Pay works in a very similar way.
Yeah.
Especially when you're, the big reason, especially at gas stations, the constant threat of somebody putting a dummy reader on a gas station is incredible, very relatively easy to accomplish for a scammer. And when you do the tap with Apple Pay or even with a card itself, it completely neutralizes that threat and that risk.
Yeah, I mean, there's now uh, the um, the selling of these very
A
portable,
flipper,
very easy to use NFC readers and writers.
yeah, flipper is the popular one. The
Yeah,
little orange guy.
but you see, uh, so the idea is that this won't work, right? Because what's going through, so unlike credit card where the chip does the encryption, here the application sends new stuff every time, right? Something new. So yeah, it's an interesting concept. There's a lot going on. I mean,
Does I'm trying to think of a business from the business model sense. Is Apple making anything on those transactions?
of course, yeah. Yeah,
So
they are getting few hundredths of a cents or whatever per dollar
Who are they
on the
taking it from? Are they taking it from the credit card processing fee, or is it added on top of the normal whatever the fee would be? Like, look, it might be 3.5% at a
I think
for
I
the
don't think
retailer absorbs that charge, right?
I would
the
most
assume
retailer
so.
always absorbed that
Yeah,
charge.
yeah.
The retailer pays to a processor on their end.
Yeah.
Whoever handles the software in their machines, right? They're paying to that. That processor then pays to the credit card company um, the rate that the credit card company takes,
And they take their own
right?
piece.
So is it
Yeah,
the processor that's handling the whatever the fee Apple is charging? Are they the
that is
ones
a
dealing with it?
that is a good question. My
Okay.
guess is none of them take anything, and the processor just adds it on, and it's on the seller. That's my guess. It's
That's one.
either
It's always on the it's
yeah.
always on the seller. Always.
It's funny how on this
Actually,
trip,
hold on a second. Apple does not charge merchants any fees for accepting Apple Pay. It is a no fee system for the merchants and the processors.
Then why don't you see it everywhere?
Most
You
places
do
do
see it.
have it.
You
It
do
is
see it
literally
everywhere.
everywhere. So they're just trying to build out the ecosystem on it. My guess is,
Huh? So
yeah,
maybe
there
they're still
is
not doing it, still not charging because they're trying to build it. But yeah, this is
it's
why a lot of places don't take American Express.
sure
it's interesting how on the
they're
trip,
making their money on their card because they also have a there's an Apple Pay card that you can get. It's either a physical or a virtual card. I don't know. I think it's through Chase that runs it. So I guess they're making all their money on that. People signing up for those cards and they're making the money there.
I don't know about Apple Pay, but Google Pay allows me to pay with my PayPal, right? So if I
Yeah.
have I got a refund on something that I bought on PayPal, so I have a balance there. I can
Mhm.
pay with that balance for gas, for example. Right?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
a lot of things that
but
that system allows.
but there's one thing that all these it's either Visa or MasterCard, even with PayPal.
No, no, I have American Express as well. I have everything.
Al's got it all.
Huh?
Here's the thing
Depends
though.
on.
Depends on the
I
merchant.
have an Israeli credit card here as well.
Can you pay with that through Apple Pay?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
on the Israeli card, you have to swipe it backwards.
The system works worldwide. It works. It works in Israel. It works here. Um, yeah. Pretty.
Interesting on the trip how they charge more. I've ran into more vendors that hit you for the fee when your car's 1.5. In one case, it was 2%.
That's
They were charging it
because
for
of
you on top
local.
of.
This was all.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
I say that of all the transactions I made, maybe 10 to 15% of them charged a fee, which
Interesting.
here it's rare. I've almost never see it.
Yeah. There's one place I go. I'm trying to remember where it is. Where they don't charge you the fee, but they'll give you the cash discount. It's a local sub shop that I go to that has their cash discount.
yeah,
I
which
didn't think
means
that was legal to do anymore. That's interesting. Because that's how
Um,
it used to be in the early days at gas station. They would advertise the
no,
price
they
for
still have that.
cash and
they
the
still
price.
have that at
They still
certain
have that.
gas stations. Yeah.
Circle K still has that. I've never paid with cash, but
Oh.
the sign flips back and forth to the two
Yeah.
different prices.
Sometimes it's 10 cents difference.
Yeah, it could
Yeah.
be. Yeah. So how does that work? You literally just you go inside and you just put 20 on a pump number and you get the 10-cent discount.
20.
that how that
That's like
works?
2 gallons.
That's what I'm asking. Is that the process for it? I've never done it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You pay in advance.
Gotcha. Okay.
And what it does is if you don't use, if you use all the 20, then the pump stops.
Yeah,
at
just
20.
hard stops at
Yeah.
20. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to get your the balance of what you didn't use.
I knew a guy that was running a. I probably shouldn't even say this. Uh, he was scamming his company he was working for. He'd go and prepay $20 worth of gas on the company card, put $10 worth of gas on it, go and get the difference. And it was pretty lucrative for a while. I don't know if he got caught or what happened, but that's very that would be
because
very
he had a
illegal to do.
receipt that he can. Yeah.
It was $20 gas. Yeah, what are you gonna do? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. I get it.
so
But the mileage on the car was terrible.
Yeah.
yeah, terrible. Yeah, terrible. Yeah, funny.
All right.
What else? Any other tech stuff from your trip that was interesting, Spence?
Um, I was surprised to see some of the automation that was being used. Uh, More acceptance of like oh, what am I trying to say? In businesses, you saw a lot of use of uh, ordering. Like when you go into a restaurant, almost everybody had a virtual menu.
Yeah,
Almost everybody had, because I think when they got slammed with COVID, they really locked down for a long time.
like 2
And
damn
so they
years.
put a
were
lot of
shut
stuff.
down.
Yeah, they were suffering. They talked a lot about that, about how emerging from that whole thing was so hard. But they've put a lot of things in place that are out there now that you see even in the smallest businesses they had.
I'm seeing a
Virtual
lot
menus.
more of this company called Toast.
I heard of this. Yeah.
Yeah, this
They're
is
very
Toast.
popular at cons. I see them there.
Toast is
Yeah. Or
okay.
yeah, Toast is a POS system, right? Point of
Yeah.
sale system. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I've seen it around not at cons. I take that back. At small businesses, like at restaurants and stuff.
Yeah,
Restaurant point of sale.
I've had a couple of times recently where I've gone in and I get the check and it's got a QR code on it. I have
Yep.
the Toast app installed on my phone now because I use it. And it's as simple as double tapping with Apple Pay for Apple to do the card directly through Apple Pay, and it's immediately done. It's very, very convenient.
I love restaurants that their receipts print out QR codes now, and you just
Yep.
scan the QR code and pay on your phone, and then leave.
Does the receipt come out of a toaster?
Yeah, yeah.
I have a really weird toaster in specials. Stay tuned for that. All joking aside.
Okay.
No more
Yeah.
joking.
Yeah, no more joking about toasters. Now, I think that's more of the trend. I mean, who was it? Who was the really popular place that had the little screens on every table? That was popular for like a
Chili's.
Chili's and like
Yeah.
a Red Robin. And that was popular for a couple minutes.
It's still there.
It's still
But
there.
small businesses, it never made sense for. You couldn't
Oh, no,
justify
no.
the
I'm
cost.
guessing it's very expensive for the
Yeah.
place. Also, it has changed because at the beginning they used to load it with, I don't know, crap games or like, table to table trivia and stuff like that.
Sure.
But the moment you touch these today's, unless it's the menu, it like prompts you, telling you if you continue, in the check you're gonna get another like $2 for activating the game platform or something like that.
Wow.
Yep.
Uh, and a kid, he just sees a yes, no, he clicks yes, or maybe he'll click no at the beginning and then he'll click yes the next time, right? And then at the check you get the I remember that
free.
a couple of years back. So yeah, the moment I sit down at a table that has something like that, it's like I take it off the table, I put it so nobody touches it by mistake.
I was in an Uber a couple of weeks ago. And it's kind of this similar thing. I don't remember the name of the service, but the Uber had an Android tablet. Or it wasn't. It was a branded tablet on the back of the seat, and I don't remember the name of the service, but I was asking him about it. They send it to him for free. There is no cost to him for anything. If the hardware breaks or gets damaged, they replace it for free, and they sell advertising in it. And there's
Yeah.
there's world statewide and countrywide trivia and things like that. They're covering the cell connection on it, the hardware itself, very similar to the old Taxi in-screen entertainment system. I thought it was pretty neat. I wish I remembered the name of it, but
Yeah.
I do
Does it
not.
cost money to mute it?
No, and actually, it's funny enough. It didn't make any. It wasn't obnoxious. It wasn't immediately playing music or audio or anything
Well,
like
they're new.
that. Yeah, they are new. He did say it was a um, pretty new system.
I will
really
tell
wish
you
I remembered
this.
what
You
it was
know
called.
the advertising systems on gas pumps.
Yes,
Do you know there is a mute button?
most of the time it's either the bottom left or top button.
No,
It's either one of the two bottom buttons.
it's on the right. It's always on the right, and it's the second from the top. It is always the same button.
Interesting.
There's four buttons on each side. It's the second on the top. Always. That's the first button I press but after the pump starts, because it usually blows out some wrap somewhere, right?
The great part about that is it makes people get away from the pump as soon as possible. People don't walk inside leaving their car there because I can't stand this music. I'm going to pull up.
Well, it's not music. It's usually advertising, right? It's
Well,
like
or
terrible.
yeah, that's true. Or a clip from some ridiculous show.
Maria
Sometimes,
Menounos and what happened in the movies this week. Yeah,
yeah,
it's the same thing. Or Cheddar News Now, or some
yeah.
stadium sports thing. It's always something.
One other weird infrastructure thing is New Zealand and Australia both have the same plug. So I had to buy plug adapters, and I had to be very careful I didn't plug something in that couldn't adapt to 240 volts. And every individual outlet has a switch at the top. So you have to, why isn't this working? Even the appliances, we stayed in a suite hotel that was like an apartment. So why the microwave's off, the range is off, the stove is off, all had their own switch. Like right there in the kitchen, you turn on to enable the devices. So interesting way they handle it.
So you actually had to get a transformer.
No, I had like chargers are typically
Oh,
120,
work.
240.
Okay.
So it's the only, so I made sure we understood what we couldn't plug in. It wasn't much we brought with us that was that. Pam has a curling iron that works dual voltage. But we could not, I had brought on the ship those USB charger extension cord travel device, like things you can plug it in. It's got a 8-foot cord, and on the end, it's got a couple of receptacles and USB C and A. But I made sure those do not work on 240. So I made sure that we didn't use those when we were on land.
Is it 240 or 220?
240.
Wow. Interesting.
50 hertz.
And it's the same as the European.
Yeah, same volt. I mean, the electrical system.
No, I mean
like
the plug. It's the
plug is
round.
different. No,
No.
It's different from Great Britain. It's different from France. French is probably the most popular one around the world. It's just simple round pins. The Australian one looks just like a Great Britain one, but the pins are oriented different and others thick. The Great Britain one is like gigantic plug, thick plug.
Yeah.
Great Britain uses the same idea of having a switch above the outlet. Not everywhere, but they do use it.
They have a fuse inside of the plug as well.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Further protection.
Which is why boiling water is so prominent electrically in the UK versus the US.
It's fast.
It's very fast because
Yes.
of their electrical system. Those little 120 water boilers that you can get here are garbage. They don't.
Yeah,
they're
that's
not
a long
fast. They
time.
don't work.
I have to say, we could not
Watched
find
an hour and a half long YouTube video on this thing like 2 days ago. It was a very interesting video.
You could not find in the store distilled water, and I use a sinus rinse every day that I use distilled water for. And so what I was doing was boiling water in those electric kettles. On the ship, they could get it for me, but I couldn't get it on land. They couldn't buy it in a store. All they sell is spring water, and spring water is not purified. I mean, it's probably filtered, but it's not reverse osmosis purified. So the people that sell these sinus rinse kits tell you to use either purified drinking water or distilled water.
What are you using, Navage?
No, oh gosh,
Ah.
that is so annoying. No,
That's the only thing that came to my mind. I hear the
oh
commercial.
my gosh,
runs
it's
with
just
every
it's
ad
the
break on my
weirdest. Like,
show.
the last thing I want to do is see the stuff coming out of my head recirculating through this clear tank. Right? It's I use something called Neomed Sinus Rinse. It's just a bottle, a squeeze bottle. You do it as you're comfortable. You don't have to worry about it's going to blow your nose apart. I'm thinking about it. If this is pressurized, that you don't control. You don't have. It's not like you have a trigger on it. You pull it. It just goes on. And yeah, I'm upset by that. The commercials that guy has.
Oh man.
I mean, doing that is like life changing. That if you have terrible sinus issues, it really helps. It really does help. But that particular product is just annoying.
Everybody knows what it is, though. They're masters of advertising.
Oh my gosh. But the Neomed is cheaper. It's easier to use. You can buy it at Costco in a box with 250 packets and extra bottles for like $19 when it's on sale. It's such a good system.
Well, talking. Oh, go ahead.
I wanted Spence mentioned many minutes ago Netflix. Did you guys see the big Netflix news this week?
No, what they do?
They are doing a boxing pay-per-view.
For free.
Well, yeah, for free for everybody that's got it, which is essentially everybody. Jake Paul and Mike Tyson are boxing. Mike Tyson's going to kill Jake Paul.
Well,
But this might be, and I know boxing was very popular in the 70s and the 80s, but this will probably be the most watched pay-per-view ever because everybody will have access to it for free through Netflix. It's a very interesting thing that they're going to do here.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was I don't know who his opponent is, but I knew Tyson.
Jake Paul's a YouTuber. He's a very, very popular YouTuber.
Yeah,
who has boxed before, but he's not Mike Tyson. So
no, but Mike
Tyson is like 55 years old.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, I
This is
saw
true,
videos. No, I saw videos of Mike Tyson training. He is still fast.
Oh.
Dude was wailing on his trainer.
Yeah, but how are his teeth?
still blinged as always.
So he can still bite off an ear of somebody.
Yeah, he could. Yeah. So it's, just to show you how big of an event this is. Typically, these boxing events happen at not small. They'll happen at venues in Las Vegas or things like that. This is happening at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, which is the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, which is a massive, absolutely huge sporting venue. And everybody's going to have access to it for free. It's insane what they're doing.
To be clear, right? This isn't the first time. This is the first time this is happening in the States.
Correct.
Right? Because this has already blown out of proportions back in the UK. It started between YouTubers, right?
Yep.
It started like a fad between YouTubers, like
celebrity boxing.
Yeah, sort of celebrity boxing between YouTubers, grabbing millions of views from around the world and locally packing a boxing arena for the full, right? They always sell out. It's if you want to watch something interesting, watch the Sidemen documentary. They're a group of just a group of guys who each were streaming out, usually gaming stream, usually FIFA at the beginning of their venture, let's call it. uh, and they got together to a weekly stream. Like we stream every Sunday. They got together to a weekly stream, and that stream grew larger than each of their followings. And today they still do some side hustling. Each one does their own thing, but they also have this combined stuff that they're doing. They're not as big as Mr. Beast, but they're getting there. They're huge. And in the UK, these guys, 7 guys, they are like I don't know. They're like the Beatles. They're like everywhere, right? Um, the kids that follow them. I remember Shy, my son, at I don't know 14, 15. I remember him watching them. He watches them till this day. Uh,
What's the name again?
Sidemen. I think there is a documentary on Netflix, but I might be wrong. If not, I can find out, and I'll let you know what you can watch it. I watched the documentary because I've seen my son follow them for a long time, and I gotta say that phenomena is interesting. But to bring it back in, one of their guys there, KSI, I think is his nickname. Uh, he's his branching out to do other stuff was rap and boxing, uh, and he became huge on that, and that brought in more fans back into the Sidemen and all that. Very, very interesting. Like the the route they took is that of very similar of, let's say, a Hollywood star back in the 50s, right, where they hit Hollywood and suddenly they're the big thing. The thing is that they did it from their own bedroom, right? And at the at the progression of things, they at one time they they rented a house together and lived there for, I don't know, a few months or a year or whatever, and each like streamed from their own room for a long time. It's like um their path to fame and their path to greatness and etc. is completely new in our world, right? It's not, I mean, we hear about it today a lot more about these make it do it yourself video producers, basically, right? But they are from the generation that started nitpicking at what this YouTube thing can be when it started, and they are the result of that experiment, basically. And they're going strong, and they have their own channels now, where they have their own pay-per-view stuff, right? But they still show up on YouTube every week, uh, and people follow them. Pretty amazing stuff like that exists.
Huh? And we were talking about power. This article goes: the advancements of new technologies appear to have given rise to a new problem across the United States: a crippling power shortage on the horizon. The advent of these technologies, such as eco friendly factories and data centers, has renewed concern that America could run out of electrical power. These worries also come at a time when the United States' aging power grid is in desperate need of repair. Heavily publicized incidents such as the 2021 Texas power outage, which was partially blamed on crypto farming, exposed how vulnerable the nation's power supply is, especially during emergencies. These have also been warned. There has there have also been warnings from tech moguls such as Elon Musk, who has stated that the United States is primed to run out of electricity and transformers for artificial intelligence in 2025. But the push to extend the life of the nation's power grid while also maintaining eco friendly sustainability begs the question: is the United States really at a risk of going dark?
Yes. The answer is
Yes.
absolutely yes,
Yes.
especially as power utilities are forced by government to shut um, certain types of power generation down in favor of others. It is a real risk. There's a really great white paper from the John Locke Foundation, which is based here in North Carolina, about this very topic, specifically dealing with Duke Energy.
Hmm.
Um, it's a very scary thing when you when you read through it. And what was it? Just 2 Christmases ago, there was major blackouts here in North Carolina right around Christmas Eve, um, due to power generation issues. So yeah, it is a very real risk. And then of course, um, what I'm surprised it wasn't in your article, Amnon. More and more people, well, not more and more, but you've got more individuals buying electric vehicles or plug-in
Right.
hybrids. That's putting a huge tax on the grid as well. Um, a lot of that is done in off-peak hours overnight and things like that, so it's not the end of the world. Um, but that we're definitely not prepared for that in terms of
Yeah,
the
it's
electrical grid.
everything new technologies.
But there's the
So that,
mandates that are coming out for electric vehicles, or some states have stated that they won't have any new gasoline vehicles after a certain date, California. And their goal, if you think about how many people in California drive, right? It's a driving state. There is not much in the way of, they tried to build that train between, that's still being poured billions of dollars of nothing into. But the point is that they've mandated no more gasoline cars, but they have not expanded their power grid in 25, 30 years. They've shut down power plants and they've mandated to have these charging stations. And I read a really good analysis about it. It says that each of these charging stations that they're mandating take enough that would require the power for a 40,000 home community to be fully able to do the type of charging that they'd be required to do at peak. And there's no way they're going to be able to add that and supply power to homes at the same time. So
yeah.
it's really tragic, because are they thinking about that, or is this the intention is that they want to make power so uh, unavailable that people will stop using energy? It's just, you don't know. It's just, you can't believe they'd be that stupid to not realize that there's no way to do what they want to do. And you see countries in Europe now rolling back their plans because they realize that
Yep.
they're not going to be able to do this.
Exactly.
Germany did that. They stopped their plan. They're actually stopping the decommissioning of coal plants, or actually bringing some of them back online for backup, because they realize they have no backup system.
Yeah, I've talked a lot about this on on my radio show. When it comes to power generation, you've got you know what is called standby ability, and things like coal and nuclear are standby generation. They can peak up and peak down the power demand. Unlike water, power is an on demand resource. There's no big water tank. There's no big tanks full of electricity that you're drawing from, for all intents and purposes, as you're using the power it is being generated. So it's a very, very it's amazing that it works, if we're being perfectly honest, as complicated as it is. But there's a lot of these on demand, like Spence was describing, things that are being shut down. And if you don't have the ability to generate power during peak loads, that's when you get black and brownouts, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what's a brownout? I've never heard of that.
That's a planned outage. So if they know that there's not going to be enough power, they will brown you out beforehand. A blackout is when there just is no power available. Brownout is them trying to shed load before a suspected mismatch in generation capacity and usage.
They're what they're doing is they're taking people offline like in a sequence.
Essentially, yeah.
They'll turn off one part of the grid, so you're without power for 2 hours, and they'll move it to somebody else so they can take away the high demand, the peak demand.
The brownouts are not super common. It's more
They're like a desperate move to try to save
very
the grid.
desperate. Yeah. That's the only way they can shed load is with that.
I read the story that Amazon is buying um, buying land in Pennsylvania for
For a solar farm.
for their new for Amazon. What is it?
Distribution.
Servers. No.
Oh,
It's
right.
for
AWS.
Yeah.
yeah. And the reason why they're buying it there is because the power company at that area is very good, and they have what they're getting along with the land is a nuclear 3.5 gigawatts power producing plant.
Their own.
Their own. Well, it's sort of like their own. Yeah, it serves others, but it's on their land, the land that they're
So
buying.
they're building it, or it
No, it's
exists?
there already.
Oh, okay. Because
Well,
that's the most of these big data centers want to have 2 feeds if they can. That's
Yeah.
why they've been in metropolitan areas, because you could provide 2 feeds, and now this is great. I mean, for them anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's
Back in the
PPL,
day
I
when we
think, is
were building data centers at IBM, if it was a critical data center, you'd want to be in an area where you could get 2 feeds. So you'd have to generally be in a big metropolitan area to do that.
Yeah, we used to think, oh wow, we live in an area. Hey, we have Sharon Harris, but the area grew so fast
Yep.
that I don't know that Sharon Harris can do anything.
They've
Well-
only got 1 out of the 4 reactors that they were supposed to build.
Yeah, that whole
Yeah.
thing was a
Yeah.
debacle. There is one thing, and it's actually being built here in North Carolina, just 10 minutes up the road from me. GE Hitachi is their big thing they're working on now is what's called small modular reactors, and they are in comparison to what when you close your eyes and think of a nuclear power plant, you think of the huge containment buildings and things like that. These are very much, they look nothing like that. And they can be built in the footprint of the size of essentially like a football field or a football stadium. And that's one of the things that's being deployed and pushed out in some of these more rural areas where they are building these data centers and things like that.
Is it a Generation 4?
It is. Yep.
Yeah, 'cause
Generation.
that's
Yep.
so cool because is it thorium or is it uranium?
I don't know that, to be honest. But they're literally being built here in New Hanover
That's
County.
very cool. I'm so glad to hear that that's happening. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's
I'll put a link in the
technologies.
chat to it, but it's called the BWRX 300 is the name of the small modular reactor.
One of the cool things they do
they're
is they
building.
use molten salt for cooling. And it's not you don't need a cooling tower. You don't need all these other things. You don't have to have a pressurized containment vessel and all these other things because of the safety with the molten salt. Because if the reactor goes hot, you just shut it off. There is no worrying about steam and all that. They're working on now even smaller versions of that. They said variable units that they could put into a small town that'll be good for 10, 20, 30 years. That they'll build this, it'll be the decay of their, whatever I don't think it's thorium. You got to watch. There's an interesting video, if you're interested in this, Nick, to look at about why they chose uranium over thorium. Thorium was a better choice, but they used uranium instead. And much of that was to do with because the byproduct of that could be used for weapons, whereas thorium couldn't be used. And thorium was just a much better choice, but just they didn't go that way.
Nuclear energy is really cool.
It's I mean, it's one positive thing about Bill Gates, I have to say. Most of the things I hear about him I don't like, but he is a big proponent of Generation 4 power. That could solve all our issues. Clean, if you could, it would be solve the issue with waste. They have designs now for Generation 4 that will burn old waste, effectively, and neutralize it, which is really cool.
I'm wondering what kind of reactor NC State has.
That's a very old. That's a very old reactor.
I mean, real old. But there's no tower. There's no nothing.
It's very small. Yeah,
and it's been there for, forever. All right.
Does it supply the power requirements? Like, I know it's still there, it's still operational. Is it still considered like how should I put the question? I mean, nuclear power, even the oldest generations ones, they are still considered the most clean energy ever, right?
Yes.
That we have produced. So does it still stand up there? I guess the maintenance is very, very costly because it's a very old an old generation, and replacing things is probably not an option at this point. But like, has it made North Carolina greener by just that keep on crunching since the what 70s, 80s?
Well, it was. I'm looking here. It was first built. NC State's was first built in the 50s.
In the 50s, yeah.
And those have been
Amazing.
decommissioned. There was one that was on the main campus that was a 2 megawatt reactor. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's at SUNY Buffalo. Has a 2 megawatt reactor that was decommissioned. It went critical in 1964 and decommissioned in 1994. Wow.
The one that's at NC State right now was operational in 1972.
Yeah, Pulsar is the one. Engineering row on the campus. 1 megawatt.
Yep, small, very small reactor.
It's just for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially for research. It's not.
Yeah,
and train.
It's not like producing power for the area. Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it produces. I would assume
it does 1 megawatt, but that's not a lot. But
do they actually use the power, or
I don't know?
Because I mean, I assume they're turning it on and off. They're playing with it. They're you're doing all of the.
Actually, it looks like they're using this to power other experiments.
Ah, that would make sense. Yeah.
It's their UPS.
Yeah.
Hell of a UPS.
Yeah.
So is
All right.
you're going to be able to buy a desktop UPS at Costco that's nuclear powered pretty soon?
As long as you have connections with Iran and you can get some of the enriched.
Well, it'll be plutonium like the Voyager probes that are still generating power. Well, I don't know if the one is gone. I don't think they have any track of it anymore. But the other one that they were in contact with is still out there, and it can still hear it. But they're thinking that it's fine. We got to the point where the processor is looping, and they can't really communicate with it directly anymore. But that has a plutonium core, tiny little core. Do you remember the controversy when they launched those because it was launching basically plutonium up through the atmosphere, that they had to build a special shell around it to protect it in case it didn't make it and it had to abort the flight? because what happened, all they'd be doing is scattering plutonium into the upper atmosphere, which would basically kill off all of civilization.
Well, there was a story this week about tons of batteries being thrown out, discarded from the uh, International Space,
Space station? Oh, great.
and it fell somewhere in the ocean or what, I can't remember. But I mean, and you're thinking, you see somebody just throwing a McDonald's bag out of a car, and that's a no-no.
No,
And
you just don't get caught. I do it all the time. I
and
go down to
this-
the I go down to the local water thing. I dump all my styrofoam into the Cape
Yeah.
Fear River. I'm a
Yeah.
true believer.
All right, specials.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. We got a little meme here of Ron Swanson the morning after the government steals an hour of my sleep, which is exactly what happened this morning. Very, very, very accurate. So I believe this is a first. I don't think
Well,
I've what?
Nick, unless you go to sleep at 3 a.m. and then it's no problem.
I stayed up until 1:59 just so I could watch it happen. I needed to make sure it was still working. I believe this is a first. I don't think I've ever had a MacBook on special before. Prerequisite with this. This is not the best computer in the world. This is not the newest computer in the world. But for certain use cases, for folks that really want to start stepping into the Apple ecosystem for whatever use case, whether it's apps that they've got on their software side, iMessage and things like that, this is a pretty good deal. So this is a late 2020. That's the model year of this MacBook Air. This is a 13.3 inch laptop. The specs are, I can already see Gal. I can see the smirk on Gal's face with this
No,
thing.
it's phenomenal specs for an Apple.
Which unfortunately is not great specs when we compare it to our window alternative. 8 gigs of
Well,
RAM, not
because
upgradable.
you're not going to run any games on this, remember?
No, you're not. This is essentially
What
a
you
web
can do
browser.
with an 8 GB RAM on an M1 chip is pretty impressive.
It is.
Oh,
So
yeah.
moderate your You're not. This is not a Final Cut Pro machine. But it will be a nice snappy computer. So it's an M1 chip. It's an 8-core. It's got 8 gigs of RAM that is not upgradable. And it's got a 256 gigabyte built-in SSD, which is not a whole lot either. But nevertheless, getting into the Apple ecosystem,
Not
you can do it
upgradable as well.
Correct. Now, what a lot of folks do with these is they do have SD card slots. So they sell the flush SD cards that you can essentially have in all the time, and you don't have to worry about snapping it off. So a lot of folks use that, plus iCloud, which if you're in the Apple ecosystem is very popular. They do a lot of their storage there. So for less than $600, you can get into the Apple ecosystem. The screen on this thing is magnificent. It's 2560 by 1600, very high resolution Retina screen. This is not one of the computers that this is not a Pro, so it doesn't have that cool Apple bar thing that you might have seen in pictures or at coffee shops or people that have MacBooks. But to get into the ecosystem for $600, this is not a bad deal. Contrary to what you might read on the Slick Deal comments, a lot of very salty Windows users about this. So this is available over at Woot. It's open box, so I don't exactly know what that means. I don't know how much time these things had on them, but check that out over at Woot. It's got very good reviews, and it's on clearance there.
And it's
So we
actually,
talk a lot of.
It's not a tablet.
No, it's a computer.
It's a laptop. I mean,
Yeah,
they
it's a MacBook
don't
Air.
show the keyboard, and
Well,
it's so thin.
that's how slim it is.
Yeah.
The keyboard is that bottom base.
Right.
These are very thin, light, portable computers. Gal has talked a lot about. We've talked a lot about Home Assistant and stepping into the smart home ecosystem and maybe breaking away from A Word or from Google and things like that. So I found this on Slick Deals, and I thought this was this is a really really powerful machine for the price. You could even the problem you're going to have with this is because it's a small form factor, hard drive space. Essentially you just have to get one big hard drive. You're not going to be able to pack it out with a bunch of drives. But this is a very nice and very suitable Plex home media server, home assistant, even a couple of Linux VMs if you want to dive into that machine. It's a Dell Precision 3531. It's a refurbished office machine being sold by Newegg. And it's got a 9th gen Core i5, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and a 256 gigabyte SSD, which would be great for your boot drive to store your, maybe you're going to run Proxmox or um, uh, uh, VMware tools or something on that as a virtual machine. Great way to do
Yeah.
that. And then put everything else on a spinning drive, a 5, a 8, a 10, a 12 terabyte spinning drive for everything else. $199. It's 43% off. This is a really, really good home. And plus it would make a great desktop as well. It's got really good specs on it. The processor's a couple years old, but for 99% of use cases, it'll work. And by the way, it does come with a Windows 11 Pro, so you're getting a full Windows 11 license for this price. I don't know what else to say about it. It's a really good deal, and it's available over at eBay. So
I
so
run
check
my
that out.
I run my Home Assistant and local DNS and a bunch of few other services, small services on a similar form factor Dell machine like this.
My
So
whole home system is running on a computer very similar to this, which is much older.
yeah,
So
mine is older as well. Yeah.
so you can get away with that. 199. It's even got a USB-C on the front, which is pretty cool. Available over at eBay, being sold by Newegg. How about a 75-inch 4K Google Smart TV for $350? This is available at BJ's, which I believe they've got a couple of those in Raleigh, right?
Yeah.
They have BJ
There's
Wholesale in
one,
Raleigh.
yeah, there's one in Cary.
Okay.
Yeah, Crossroads.
Okay.
right
They
next
don't
to
have any
Raleigh.
down here on the coast. I know BJ's is a little bit more popular kind of in the Northeast, but there are some throughout the Southeast as well. So this is available over there. It does say your mileage may vary. This is an in-club or online order. It is not a delivery product. So you'll have to go pick it up or make sure it's available at your store. It's available for $349. It's normally $499. So you're saving $150 on that. Available over at BJ's Wholesale. Next up, I know Spence has something similar to this and has spoken its high praises. For individuals that do a lot of traveling and one screen is not always enough, this is a 1080p 15.6 inch 16 by 9 resolution portable monitor. The reason I put this one in there is you can connect to display via either HDMI or USB-C, which gives you the ability to hook up a modern laptop, but then also gives you the option to connect to other
Phone.
devices. You could plug a phone, you could plug a
Mhm.
Roku into this and use it as essentially a television.
That's nice. I like the USB-C too.
Yeah, so you get both form factors with it, or you're connecting to an older device that only has an HDMI or a VGA output, you can convert it over and get that. It will require I couldn't figure this out. I don't know if it will USB-C power itself if you're connecting a computer to it. But I know if you're using the HDMI, you'll of course have to use the DC power input, but it does come with the DC power connector. All of this for $60. It's normally $100. There is a coupon you have to clip in the link on the specials for that. So make sure you do that, and you'll get it all the way down to $59.99 for that. This is a really good bargain for folks that could use another screen from time to time, or if you're doing some traveling. Spence, you had very good luck with something
I did.
similar to
I
this.
used it as my primary way to watch things from my phone. I bought the Apple HDMI adapter, and plugged it into this. The only thing I didn't like about it wasn't this brand, but the one I had, the only thing that was disappointing was the speakers weren't very good. They were
Um,
usable, but so I bought a cheap set of uh, USB powered speakers because it has a phone plug jack on it. So I use that.
and this
It's
one
my
does as
hearing.
well.
It's I suffer from hearing issues, and so if the speakers aren't very good, I struggle with it. So
Yeah. This does have a 3.5 millimeter audio jack as well, so you
yeah,
can hook up
so
an
that's how I
external pair of
hooked
speakers
it
or
up to mine.
headphones. And it's traditional 60 hertz refresh rate. So pretty cool deal for $60. I was tempted to buy this. I don't have a use case, so it'll just sit unused in my closet.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, if you're looking for something like that, pretty good deal. Next up, for folks that are in the TP-Link infrastructure land, here's a good deal on a set of their Casa smart plugs. These are 15 amp smart plugs through the Casa ecosystem. $17 for 3 smart plugs. It's a really good deal if you've got a couple of these already or you're in the TP-Link infrastructure. They are they're 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi only. You do have to connect these through another app. These are not controllable natively via Z-Wave or something internally.
Alexa,
But
you just put the
yeah,
skill in Alexa, and you can manage it. I've
correct.
standardized on these. I tried 3 different brands, and the only 2 that actually worked worth the snot is this one and the Amazon smart plugs.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
parents have an old, very, very old Casa switch, which I think was even before TP-Link bought them, I think, or something like that. But yeah, these work well. They're available for $17, available over at Amazon. I thought this was kind of a neat little product. It's not the cheapest thing in the world, um, but for individuals that do a lot of work outside, there's for 30 plus years, there's been um, work outside headphones that have AM, FM radios in it. However, this one is cool because it's got a set of Bluetooth. It's got a Bluetooth receiver in it as well. So if you're doing a lot of outdoor activities and you're not listening to the radio, and you want a way to connect a phone to one of these and still have good hearing protection if you're using loud equipment or machinery. This is it's called SafeWorks is the name of the brand. And it does also have an AM FM radio in it as well, but it's got that Bluetooth receiver. This is normally an $80 product, and it's being sold over at Woot for $29. Um, Interestingly enough, it powers on batteries. It's 3 AA batteries, which is how you power this thing, which actually kind of makes sense. If you're not going to be in a position where you're going to want to take these off for extended periods of time to charge them. And plus, by the way, it's got a microphone in it, so you can take phone calls with it as well, which is pretty cool. So it's got a lot of neat features, and it's available over at Woot for $30. You can look like a member of a NASCAR pit crew for just $30 purchasing one of these. Let's see. Next up, um, everybody's phone has most phones have mobile hotspots in them. So the use cases for these have kind of gone down, but there's cases where you might want a standard modem. And there's a couple of interesting features of this. This is a Netgear 4G LTE broadband modem. The one thing that this does is it gives you RJ45 jacks, which is very useful. So if you're trying to connect devices that maybe don't have Wi-Fi, I can think of some more professional applications where or applications maybe you're doing a lot of portable live streaming and Wi-Fi is not necessarily always the best solution. You can connect an Ethernet jack to this, and you can actually connect it to a modem, or excuse me, to a router. So you could build an ad hoc Wi-Fi network kind of on your own through this. This modem works with AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon, and it does require a nano SIM. So you'll have to bring your own SIM and your own provider, but you can get this for essentially half off, available over at Amazon. It's on sale for $80, which is a really good deal. They say this is the cheapest this product has ever been available on Amazon. So check that out if you're in the ballpark or marketplace for that. And again, you do get those. You get a WAN plus a LAN jack So it'll do some of it can do some failover as well, which is pretty neat. That's available over at Amazon. I've had this in the specials a couple of times. Govee makes a lot of really, really, really cool home accessories, and in this case, you are getting three wireless water leak sensors plus their gateway, which plugs into just a regular 120-volt outlet, and then the gateway connects to Wi-Fi, and you can control it through the app. The gateway also has an alarm built into it, so it'll give you an audible alarm if you've got a leak. And this is all on sale for $31.99. So you're getting three sensors and the gateway for $32, which is a really, really good deal. That's available directly from Govee themselves. There are a couple of promo codes to get that discounted price. Just click the link in the specials for that.
And it
And then
looks like
finally,
the
yes.
sensors themselves have a speaker in them.
I believe the sensors do have
They-
a speaker in them
yeah,
as well.
They do.
Yeah, you're right. They do. So yeah, my father has this. Had this for a couple of years, and it's been very helpful. So check that out. Available over directly from Govee's website. And then finally, did you guys know that Xbox is licensing toasters now?
Makes sense.
I didn't know this, and it's a design toaster, so it'll imprint the Xbox logo on your toast. This is a real product by Microsoft, by Xbox, that is being sold at Walmart. It's a 2-slice slide-down toaster with a digital countdown timer and 6 different bread settings from light to dark. Removable crumb tray, automatic shutoff, and it will imprint the Xbox logo for $44. This is normally $85 retail, which is ridiculously stupid for how expensive it is. But because you can get like a 6-slice one for probably $20 at Walmart.
Yeah.
But if you are really hell bent on being a gamer, you can pick this up for $40. Available at Walmart. It has 38 reviews, and there have been more than 100 of these bought since yesterday, since it went on sale. Can't promise that it's going to be the best toaster that you've ever seen. There are much better solutions out there, but nothing screams gamer like an Xbox Series S branded toaster.
I'm going to
So
wait
check
for
that
the.
out over at
I'm going to
Walmart.
wait for one with the Batman logo. I'll buy
There's
that one.
been these are not uncommon, these kind of branded toasters. I've just never seen one. Normally it's like Cuisinart with partnering with Marvel or somebody. I haven't seen the company themselves actually being listed as the manufacturer. Now obviously Microsoft isn't producing the toaster, but the fact that they are the ones that are shown as the manufacturer, I think is pretty interesting. So check it out over at Walmart.
Thank you, Nick.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I don't know.
Well, no, it's fine.
I was pretty shocked to see that in there.
Yeah. If it was 4 slices, I may have.
Yeah, if it was
Really?
4 slices, it'd be a pretty decent deal. But 2 slices for $40, is a lot.
You're paying for the branding.
Yeah, you're right. You
Exactly.
are.
Case,
Yep.
for the licensing.
Yeah. You can get a Wi-Fi connected one for about $80 that will do 4 slices. Because I was
one
going
of the
down the
things I
rabbit hole.
don't really get about branding of stuff like that. I mean, I understand when it's for your sports team and you want that money to get to your sports team, something like that. I'd never get it when it's like a big brand and people actually shell out the money, like a Disney brand.
Yeah,
or
Microsoft should pay you to use it.
Exactly. You want me to advertise your product on my countertop? Not a
Yeah.
problem. Make it cheaper.
Yep.
But
I want the
to pay a
toaster.
premium. Yeah.
I want the toaster where I can send a picture from my phone and it will toast that picture for me.
I guarantee you it is already being made.
All right.
Uh,
So back to Signal. With the new version of Signal, you will no longer broadcast your phone number to everyone you send messages to by default, though you can choose to if you want. Your phone number will still be displayed to contacts who already have it stored in their phones. Going forward, however, when you start a new conversation on Signal, your number won't be shared at all. Contacts will just see the name you use when you set up your Signal profile. So even if your contact is using a custom Signal client, for example, they still won't be able to discover your phone number since the service will never tell it to them. So what about this, Gal?
I mean, I've uh, I've seen that setting and I've switched it on,
Yeah?
but um, I haven't figured out a way of getting an account name. Remember a username. I remember
Hmm.
they were they said that something started with that.
Yeah.
I that part I haven't seen yet. I've seen messages from them about it, but no, I still haven't figured out how to set that up.
All right.
I think it's great that that exists. I do not understand process because there's still some sort of an ID. So how is the identification happening? I'm not sure, but I definitely am liking the technology behind it and the way everything works. It's a very it's a very good alternative, and unfortunately, I don't think there's enough users. Right? I mean, I the few users I managed to pull in to this, I've got half of them still using it with me. So, and it's mostly like very close family or friends, and that's it.
Hmm.
Everybody else are using other things like WhatsApp and
Yeah.
even Facebook Messenger or something like that. I the the way I see it is they are the only solution out there today that provides a very similar level of convenience compared to other big networks with very solid technology and probably the best ethics right now, right? Um, they are funded by donations only, so um, and they are publicly filing everything. They're a nonprofit organization in the U.S. Um, their track record is phenomenal. So if you are in the power choosing a communication network with your peers, uh, definitely sell them on Signal. Signal is right now the best. Uh, it's the Wikipedia equivalent of ethics, right? When it comes to how to run a business on the internet. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they haven't failed us, right? We're using Signal between us
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. They haven't failed us. We're using it through Beeper as well, and that has been working well as well. Um, it's not self-hosted, which is the ultimate freedom from any system, but their reasoning for not being distributed and allowing others to self-host the service is reliability, right? It has to do with reliability and accessibility to the network. They are solving the opaqueness of their infrastructure in in the fact that yeah, you can definitely run your own system that is parallel to this if you really want, but um, by controlling the infrastructure, they also make sure that everything is updated, that everything is always with the latest encryption and patched and all that. So uh, yeah,
Okay.
still one of the best out there options out there for secure chat.
Yep.
So definitely recommend.
All right.
Something
Now,
random that I forgot that I experimented with more AI this week.
oh,
So for those update, I've been using Godot, which is an open source game engine. And I've been relying heavily on ChatGPT to help me with the coding. And what's great about ChatGPT is so I'm using an older version of the software because the free version of ChatGPT only has information up till 2021. So I'm using an older version of Godot, which is fine, to ask it questions like, how do I place a node in the scene so that the code can do this, that, or other things. Um, and so not only does ChatGPT spit out the code, but it explains it, which is what I really need because I want to learn while I'm doing it, and um, that's what I think the big benefit on using ChatGPT. However, I know that there's other coding AIs out there. Like a popular one is GitHub's one. What is it called? GitHub
Copilot.
Copilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I never did that one because one, you have to
For a fee.
pay. Yeah, you have to pay, but two, um they have a free trial and I didn't even bother trying it because it's basically, for me as a novice, I need a lot of coding novice. I need a lot of hand holding. And with the free version, they said that they limit things, and I didn't understand what they limited. So I was like, I can't go in there not understanding what's going on and then be further confused why it's not working. So I didn't give it a try. But there's now a free version. Another company came out with their version called Codium, and Codium is a competitor to GitHub's Copilot, where it's AI for coding, but it's free. At least it's free now. They
Yeah.
have business sections or business and entrepreneur packages, but so I tried it because so far the only thing I've used to help me with coding is ChatGPT. And so Codium was a little bit complicated. So was I believe GitHub, but I had to download Visual Studio Code. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I downloaded VS Code, which is what is it? What is it? Code editor?
It's an integrated development environment, IDE.
Yeah. Okay, so I downloaded that because with Godot, I could just code directly in Godot. I don't have to have a separate thing. But to use the tools, the Codium that I really wanted to try out, I had to download VSC. And so I downloaded it. It took me forever to figure out how to get it to hook up to Godot, and it took me forever how to figure out how to hook up Codium. They don't make it easy. Like, they assume that people that are doing this, that are trying to use these plugins and stuff, already know what they're doing. And I'm just like, I don't understand. It's not intuitive. But after a few hours, I got it all hooked up and I tried to use it. And it was okay. But the problem is that Codium, and maybe GitHub does the same thing, I haven't tried it, is that it just fixes the code or it just spits out the code, but it doesn't explain it. And I know there's like a side chat thing that talks about it, but it was very isolated. Like, for instance, I had it be like, okay, well, when I launched the program, draw a square on the screen, and it wrote the code for it, and I was like, awesome. And then later on, I was like, okay, well, I want you to change the code so it draws the square and does this, that, and other thing. And it didn't understand what I was talking about when I was referencing it earlier from an earlier conversation. Whereas ChatGPT, it was like having a conversation with a person where I'd be like, hey, remember when I said this thing? I changed my mind. I want to go back to that. And it goes, oh, okay. Well, then let's reverse all this. And then it explains what it's doing. And I guess I need more hand holding. So I think going forward, I might be paying for Chat GPT because the other stuff that I've tried as far as AI and coding isn't as hand holding for what I'm looking
Okay.
for.
Have you tried Bing's Copilot?
I did. The problem with and granted, I haven't used these things extensively. Like I tried it for like maybe 10, 15 minutes. The thing with the Bing Copilot is that its first instinct was to link me. So it answered my question, but it would link instead of like doing the code and explaining it or whatever, it would link me to a YouTube article or it'd link me to something else. And I want it to explain it to me because I can Google stuff and look it up, and it's doing that for me, which is great. But I was like, I had a very specific question about the camera and like how to code this, that, and the other thing, and it was like, oh, this guy does it. Here, watch this. I'm like, no, I don't want to watch a video. Tell me.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if it's a very small use case. But so far, I love ChatGPT's explanation and the way that it's kind of like it's teaching me how to do it and not just doing it. So I might have to
So
pay so I can use the newer versions of
first of
software.
all, stop using ChatGPT. Try starting using the Copilot from Microsoft because it has 3 modes, and the creative mode is basically ChatGPT. So you're not losing ChatGPT. Okay.
Mhm.
So
So I have
so use that and do your conversation about code like that. And you're right. The reason the coding AIs are not functioning the way you are using ChatGPT is because those coding AIs, they are built as these extensions to your coding workflow, and you are
yeah.
trying to learn that workflow. So what you need right now, I mean, you might still use Codium, but you can also ask the Copilot for help. Now, here's the thing: version of the ChatGPT that you're using on Copilot is the newest ChatGPT, and it's for free.
Yeah. So I have it open right now. And you said so I have Copilot. I just opened up Edge and then clicked on the
Exactly, and
Copilot
there's
thing.
the icon there. It shows up as
Yeah.
a sidebar.
So
Yeah.
it says choose a conversation style, more creative, more balanced, and more precise.
Right. And you can take the same question and later ask it on another style and see if if one style doesn't work, the other will work. The thing is that the main difference is that the balanced and the more precise will always give you references to online resources where it's grabbing the information from.
So I should ask for creative.
Yeah, and creative is the chat GPT engine, basically, which
okay, I'm gonna try it.
it does work in the context of the website, for example, that you're at right now. So you can ask it to questions about the video you're watching right now and stuff like that. It's pretty impressive.
Okay, I'm gonna try it out because I really do love. I understand. I'm not saying Codium and GitHub are bad. It's just for my use case, I need a lot more hand holding.
Right, because you're not opening a new code file and start to code. You are asking the AI, help me start coding.
Yeah. I don't
And
understand
so
logic behind stuff, so I need it to explain it to me so that I'm learning. I'm like basics.
right, you're learning from it. Right. So that's a completely different use case. You're right. It's a completely different use case here. These are like super hyper buffed up IntelliSense engines, the Copilot and the Codemium one. But yeah, definitely keep on using that in the editor while you're trying to get stuff that that the AI instructs you in doing, and definitely use that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I think this is the greatest thing to come out of the 21st century for me personally. Is this AI that I'm learning? Like it's teaching me, and like I'm not like regurgitating. I mean I can like it could give me the code snippet. I don't even have to read it. I could just copy and paste it, and 9 times out of 10 it works. But like I be like, hey, I don't understand why this code worked and this code didn't. And I was like, oh yeah, let me walk you through it. And it's like,
Yeah.
It's insane, the power. It's so crazy. And in fact, I've made I finished a game jam, so I made a little video game. Me and my friends did, all because I had help with AI using it as like a teacher. That's insane. Just blows my mind.
I gotta say, following your progression on this is fun for me because I basically get to see how new generation of coders will do this, and I do know that um, this is today for, let's say, high schoolers, right? This is the tool that they go to finish up homework and while it's a bit annoying that they're not doing the work and they're not really learning from it. I mean, it's the conversation about whether kids should use calculators or not, right? It's like if we go back to the 70s, right? Or it's like, should they use a calculator or should they learn how to do the math? It's an amazing tool, and if it's used correctly, it is a very powerful tool.
Yeah,
And
in a span of a year, I've made 4 mini video games, and mostly with the help. When I started out, this is before like the AI boom. When I started, I was taking classes, and it was a slog. It was hard to do, and then I relied heavily on YouTube videos to help me out. And then as soon as the AI stuff came out and I can ask it directly, I mean, I did like 2 game jams like back to back. And it's just crazy that I'm a creative and I have all these ideas and I want to make video games, but the biggest learning hurdle is the technical stuff behind it. And now it makes it so much more accessible. I still have to learn a lot. Don't get me wrong. It's not like you push a button and it just does it for you. Like, but the fact that I could test things and then learn things, and then if I run into a hurdle, I could just ask it like, I don't understand this, and then it explains it, and it's crazy. I love it. This is 21st century, baby.
yeah, I had a similar experience. So there's something called Wikidata. Wikidata is basically a huge database that catalogs everything, very much like Wikipedia. It's just everything in such a way that you can ask it specific questions. Okay, it grabs information from Wikipedia, from other open sources, available sources, and it has a query language which is very, very technical to write. And I wanted to test out that query language. I was interested in the possibilities. I was looking for um, certain genres of comic books, and I wanted and stuff that I would usually go to Google and ask for. I don't know. Um, a list of interesting comic books with that are not juvenile, basically, right? I wasn't looking for pornographic comics, and that's usually the results that you get when you're looking for a list of adult comics, right? I wanted adult themed, but not about pornography. I wanted some, serious topics in comics, and so I figured out a way to formulate the question, and then I learned about Wikidata. So Wikidata has this very complex query language, uh, and I mean, I know how to query databases, but now I need to learn the syntax. So instead, I went
Yeah.
to Copilot and asked it, okay, I want to write a query that does this and that and this and that language, right? In the query language that they develop. And yeah, in about an hour, right? Uh, After tweaking and stuff, I got to create a very complex query, right, in a language that I've only just met, to do the search that I really wanted. And
Yeah, that's
that
crazy.
that and if if I would have done this before AI, it would have taken me probably 5 hours total, right? And I might have dropped it. completely, just because it's really, there's a huge learning curve, right?
Yep.
There's a very insurmountable but now I not only have access to a new tool, but I already have the templates that I've built for me, right, tailored to me, and I can tweak them, and I suddenly can use something new, right? So it's definitely a phenomenal tool in that aspect, and i
Yeah.
and i really hope that the, these things keep evolving so it'll be helpful to us.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Can you talk about? Wait a minute. The wiki. What did you call
Wikidata.
it? Wikidata. So you
Yeah, just
used it to
go to
find.
Wikidata.
So you used it to find comic books. Can I use it to find book recommendations?
Yeah. You can
So
find. I like you'll ask it.
what?
I'll give you an example. I'll give you
Hold
an
on.
example of a very very easy thing to search there, right? But something that, let's say, if you'll search online, you can only find, I don't know, a blog entry about something like that, right? Let's say you're writing a paper about historical events, okay? And you're looking for historical events of uh, where, I mean, history, looking into history today, a lot of people want to see where did women had a very substantial role, right? So you can look for specific events in a specific range where, and you can ask for countries where their prime minister at the time was a woman, right? It's like, or the leader of the country, right, at the time was a woman. That's something that today, asking a very easy Google search is hard to find
Yeah,
because
because
you're
the information is.
crisscrossing a lot
Yeah.
of concept together and meshing them, right?
So
So something like that.
what's
So
the
my
difference?
search was looking for specific comic books where the number of characters that are marked as a superhero is less than two. Like,
Dude,
there's
that's
no search in
okay.
the world that will help, right?
You have blown my mind because I have the hardest time looking for specific genres of literature and TV shows and stuff. And so I rely on recommendations that like people make a blog post or whatever and
Exactly.
I'll go through.
Same.
But I'm gonna have to use this. Okay, so then what's the difference between Wikidata and then Wikipedia?
So there's, I can't say there's a lot of difference. The difference is in the structure of the data, and they're linked because Wikidata is a project that pulls a lot of information from Wikipedia. And one of the things that happened after Wikidata came out is the data in Wikipedia started to become more structured so databases like that could pull information. So this is just a way of querying, right? The open data that's out there. So as long as the data is in Wikipedia, you can probably, and it's formatted properly, you can probably query it with Wikidata.
So
It's not part of the Wikimedia Foundation. I think it's a separate
it
part.
just has
Maybe
similar
maybe it's
names.
not. Yeah, but it does definitely rely on data from there, but it also pulls data from other
How
places.
does it Okay, this is like blowing my mind. How did I don't even know how to formulate my question. How does the database get the information and that it's like accurate? Because I'm
Well,
thinking,
I
what if?
mean, the accuracy, don't count on accuracy. That's why it depends on the quality of the data that it pulls, right? So if the data wasn't provided perfectly, then think about it like an AI answers your question. There is something called a semantic model. A semantic model is based on what does the computer understand from the input that it's getting, right? A large language model in AI, which is what we're seeing with ChatGPT and all of that, right? They basically built semantic models uh, around raw text input, right? And produce meaning out of that. So that is part of what Wikidata does, but it stores it and catalogs it. And then you can use the query language specifically about that, right? So it ties, on the one hand, the siphoning in of raw information into a certain semantic model, but it ties it in with human editing of that semantic model.
So is
So
it just
there's
like,
this.
is it
It's a huge
constantly just,
database.
is it, yeah, but is it like constantly just scanning the internet? So if I made a website and I made a blog post that said, I don't know, something crazy that this is I went grocery shopping today or something, and then that data like went into the database. So it's like, when did Katie go grocery shopping? And it's like
Uh,
pulls it.
I mean, maybe, but I think it's specific sources that it
I
pulls
would
in
say you just need to
automatically, and on the
try.
other hand, there's like
I know I
manual
need
editing.
to.
Yeah, just try it
I'm
out.
going to. I
Yeah.
don't know about that query business, but I definitely have the website up, and I'm gonna type it in and see if I could get some new book recommendations.
Right. So use
Right.
that and use the AI on the side, right? And ask it, how do I write a query that asks the this and this and that and that, and you'll get something, and you'll start to shape the results the way you want.
And talking about AI and all that, Qualcomm has unveiled its AI Hub, an all inclusive library of pre optimized AI models ready for use on devices running on Snapdragon and Qualcomm platforms. These models support a wide range of applications, including natural language processing, computer vision, and anomaly detection, and are designed to deliver high performance with minimal power consumption, a critical factor for mobile and edge devices. They're not talking about the edge browser. The AI Hub library currently includes more than 75 popular AI and generative AI models, including Whisper, ControlNet, Stable Diffusion, and Beichuan 7B. All models are bundled in various runtime and are optimized to leverage the Qualcomm AI engine hardware acceleration across all cores, NPU, CPU, and GPU, according to Qualcomm. And they said they'll deliver 4 times faster inference time. So AI Hub is a bunch of different ones, but it's for the Snapdragon and Qualcomm platform.
Yeah, well, I mean, those
So
are the what's it called?
the mobile stuff.
The other architecture. I forget the name.
All right,
Yeah.
I read the story and I couldn't find any information to follow it. I don't know if you guys noticed it. Last Tuesday morning, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads were all experiencing issues. The
Yeah.
3 Meta-owned platforms weren't working for many users, with a widespread outage seeming to start around 10 a.m. Some users are experiencing use issues logging into their Meta Quest headsets too. Facebook, Facebook is logging users out of their accounts, leaving them unable to get back in. Meanwhile, over on Instagram, some users, including several of the Verge crew, can't refresh their feeds, and they say YouTube was down too. I didn't hear any follow up. I couldn't find any follow up to this. They say it started at 10 a.m. on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yep, had the same problem.
Yeah. It was my coworkers that noticed it first. We were waiting for a meeting to start, and they pulled
Did
up their phones.
did did they say? Did you read anything after that? No.
No.
Well,
Hmm.
No,
I wonder.
what I noticed is Facebook logged you out of everything. Like desktop or mobile, you would just be on the login screen. You would click to log in and it would say encountered an error or something like that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if this is related to it, but when that happened too, I opened up my phone and looked at Slack, and it said that Slack was having problems too. And I don't know if it was just a coincidence or if it was the same issue, but it said that it was going to log me out because of something. It's like, oh, you need to log out, log back in. And I've never seen that warning message before.
DNS.
DNS, yeah,
Oh,
plain old DNS.
usually that means that there's so Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, the services themselves, right? They're working uh, by one set of software, and there's another part of the software that takes care of authentication. And so, if you're already authenticated, then there's no, call it a handshake. There's no handshake that needs to happen for you to authenticate. So if you logged out, you would fail to log in because that part that takes care of the security, making sure that you are securely identified, that's that was broken for a while, right? Unclear why. I don't think anybody provided any more detail. But the systems themselves, they were reachable, accessible. So as long as you didn't need to log in, right, and you were already logged in, everything worked, and you didn't know that there was a problem. Um, as Nick said, it's probably something like that, some like DNS, or but it also could be that they've updated their authentication stack, uh, and something failed. One of the reasons to update the authentication stack is um, new encryption options. There is, we talked about it a few months ago, but there's a new technology, right, that's being driven rather hard, passkeys. So I'm guessing they were trying to add something like that. Something broke, and for a while things weren't available. Uh,
These are all
have you guys encountered passkeys in the wild? Because I have, and I can say it is a pretty interesting solution today. On the one hand, it makes things easier. On the other hand, I think it's going to be a shit show because it really relies on these. It relies on a very secure uh, uh, password vault, right? And today, everybody are using their defaults for their OS, whether it's Windows or Mac or Android. And unless you're using something that is a third party and it's not the big player, right? I am fearing that people's reliance on this more and more is going to become a problem because people are starting to use it without the education required, without understanding what this is. But it's definitely an interesting turn.
well,
You can
maybe
now
it'll
log into things without punching in a password,
uh,
right?
uh,
Because
and it will probably mature and evolve and change and
first of all, it's pretty mature. Okay,
yeah.
by the fact that it's only now happening is a good thing. That it didn't start before. The reason it started, remember, we talked about Windows 11 not being supported if you do not have a TPM chip,
Mhm.
right? TPM. So it has to do with that. It has to do with the fact that all of the hardware that we're using today knows how to store information securely locally, and that is an important part, right? Um, these keys, they're not really new in terms of usage. We've been using SSH keys since the 80s, right? So and so encryption by a key pair is something that has been going on for a long time. Amnon, I know for sure you played with PGP, right? It's the
Long
same
time
idea.
ago. Yeah.
It's a symmetrical, right? The idea of encryption by a private key and a public
Mhm.
key. Uh, it's just that when it comes to passkeys now, they've figured out a way to securely transmit them from the browsers to some some password vault, which does not necessarily need to be part of the browser. Okay. For example, Bitwarden
Well,
has full support for passkeys today. Okay. What does that mean? I go to Google and I want to log in. If I've already set up a passkey, all I need to do is log in with a passkey. I get Bitwarden to prompt me, hey, you're trying to log in with a passkey. Just choose your passkey from this list, right? Because I have a list of the accounts that I've already set, and I can do that. Um, when you log into Google today, they've changed to a modern. I don't know if you've noticed, but at least for some of the accounts or most of the accounts, you get a new form of login screen. And once you finish that, it'll ask you, do you want to log in next time with a passkey? And then you go through a setup process, even if you do not have Bitwarden. What it does, it sets up a handshake between the local machine you are and the system that it has to store secrets and the remote machine. And so from this machine, with this device, with whatever security methods on it, right, it's going to store a specific key that will allow you to log in
it's
to the
sort
other
of like
side.
Remember Me.
Well, it's not, because Remember Me relies on some string
Yeah,
that can be duplicated.
but I mean that's
Here, it is a completely encrypted handshake, one that can be only reproduced by a very specific set of conditions. And just by it cannot be copied, for example, to another machine.
right.
But if somebody gets access to your machine and logs in through the browser that has access to the passkeys, right? Then yes. But it needs to be at that machine. He cannot, right? He cannot do it by just mimicking this machine.
Hmm.
So that makes it more important to lock your machine down.
Exactly. And
So
for home machines, right? If you, so one thing, I've had such a breach to my data back in the day, where somebody managed to hack in through AnyDesk. Somebody got access to my machine remotely, and because that machine wasn't locked, password vault was unlocked at the time, people just grabbed all of my credit cards, right? It was a shit show of a month, because it took me time to realize that it even happened. And the reason I'm saying that that's what I identified that happened is because all of my credit cards, the Israeli one, the US ones, the
All
debit
of them.
card,
All of them.
all of them got hit. And there are some that I do not use online at all, except they're stored in my vault, so I can get the information if I need. And so that was like, luckily all of the transaction were caught by the fraud detection of the credit card company, so it didn't cost me anything. But it was definitely a scary moment when
Hmm.
I realized what had happened and how, right? And the solution is easy. Just, make sure your computer gets locked 15 minutes after you leave,
Yeah.
right? It's not a big ask, but definitely understand that your computer is starting to, something that we've taken for granted that it's secure. It is very important to keep it even more secure.
Yep.
One of the things, in order to use passkey, by the way, right, on Windows, with the Windows Hello system that does all of the authentication and all that and stores passkeys, is to it will require a lock screen, right, in order for that to work. So
would
they've
they,
taken care of that.
maybe this would be a way to get, like you have on your iPhone now, you use your um, thumbprint to open your passwords and apply
Yeah,
a
for sure.
password to a site. So this would be a way for Windows to be able to do that.
So I can tell you,
Yeah.
with Windows, for example, and I'm pretty sure Mac has similar things. I just don't know. on laptops, especially newer laptops, right? You can log in by just identifying your face, which is very convenient. I gotta say, I use it at work. Phenomenal, right? Um, as long as it, as long as the connection to the camera can be verified by the security chip, right? And I'm guessing that's why it will only work with built-in cameras, for example, and not a USB camera. Maybe it will. I don't know. Uh, so you get like a mechanism where all you need to do is just press a button that so it'll know that somebody's at the computer. It just looks at you, identifies your face, and logs you in. Yeah, it's secure enough for a home environment. It's phenomenal, right? It's and it's enough for somebody not to be able to hack you from remote. So
All right.
because nobody can replace the USB feed, for example, because that USB feed will not be secure.
It's a
Stuff
good
like that.
thing to do, and you should do it. It's all the stuff
Locking your
behind.
computer, yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, two more things before we finish. It seems like Roku has rolled out new terms of service that require users to accept individual arbitration. To gain acceptance, Roku devices pop up a dialog box that can only be dismissed if you accept the new terms or turn off your Roku and stop using it. As expected, much discussion has ensued in the Roku community, and per the Roku dispute resolution terms, users can opt out within 30 days of being subject to the new terms by sending surface mail. Actually,
Surface mail.
well, yeah,
But
yeah,
opt out,
and the up,
And there's
but
no
you'll still click
consequences for
agree. So how do you opt out?
you have to send. I guess you get on Roku, but I mean they give you the address here: General Console, Roku Inc. 1701 Junction, blah
Oh,
blah blah blah
boy.
blah. The effective date of these changes was February 20th, which may shorten the 30 days prior for opting out. If you don't accept it, it will not work anymore. So
So
I have not seen it. They said that it started back in February 20th. I don't, any of you guys saw anything that Roku is asking you?
No,
I did.
no,
Yeah,
mine.
I didn't either. So I don't know what this is all about, but if it says that you need to accept the new terms, if you want to use it, you're going to have to accept it. It's the bottom line.
So the mailing your opt out
Yeah,
means you lose your access to your Roku?
that's not.
That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Why allow you to opt out by mail but not do it on the screen?
It doesn't explain that. I guess because it's too easy to do it on the screen. So they say, okay, if you really want to opt out, send us a piece of mail.
Yeah, that way
And most
people aren't doing it by mistake.
right, yeah. So, but just if you see something, be aware that
If you
what's
see
going on.
something, say something.
Yeah. And the other thing that's important for people that use computers and they're more technical, VMware is urging customers to patch critical vulnerabilities that make it possible for hackers to break out of sandbox and hypervisor protections in all versions, including out of support ones of VMware ESXi, Workstation, Fusion, and Cloud Foundation products. A constellation of 4 vulnerabilities, 2 carry severity rating of 9.3 out of 10, are serious because they undermine the fundamental purpose of VMware products, which is to run sensitive operations. So if you're using VMware, you need to patch it. They said that it's very, very, and there's actually, they said that they put out patches for non-supported versions even because they know a lot of people are using them.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So that's it for today. Unless somebody has something else to add here.
No, I'm gonna learn how to become a query server data thing because on top of learning how to make video games, I'm just gonna learn everything, everything under the sun that was mysterious and involved technology I just couldn't have access to, and now AI is making it possible. We'll see. Gal, I might have to hit you up and be like, "Hey, this is
You
confusing."
just play with it. Katie, you're not stupid, and you'll
I
be
didn't say
able to
it. Hey,
figure it out.
I didn't say I was stupid. It's just it's hard for somebody that is whatever the creative side of the brain is. I have a hard time sitting down and watching these boring lectures of tech people that are like, and today we're gonna do this
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna click on this thing, and it's like the worst. But with the
Yeah.
power of AI, I'll get through it.
Yep,
I agree,
exactly.
especially when they're not doing exactly what you need anyway. So
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It was funny because I asked Bing, I was like, Bing, I want to
Let-
do this thing. Tell me how to do it. It said, oh, here's a video. It's 2 hours long. And it was like, yeah, that's it. It basically said, yeah, that's a really long video, but here's other ones that are under 30 minutes. I was like, thank you, Bing.
All right. Anything else?
Nah.
That's it?
Well, I have to say that
All right.
after spending a lot of time away from home and not being online all the time, and if when I was online, using it mainly for communications and not browsing and looking at social media and things like that, and reading. I read 6 books
Nice.
on my Kindle. That was actually very refreshing.
You must have been bored on the trip.
No. I mean, when you're the
Oh, but
wonderful
you're at
part about
sea.
a cruise is that you can sit there and time slows down.
Yeah.
And there were lots of activities on ship days, and yet in the morning, go outside, sit on the balcony, have coffee, read for a
All right.
while.
So write
So,
a report about
a
each
report.
book. Summarize.
I can write a summary of the series
Yep.
that I read. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Nick. Thanks, Katie, Gal, Spence. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie, and Donna, Dina. Actually, just Donna, Mati, Eleanor, Sarid, Yaakov, and Yael. Thanks, everybody, for turning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing, back up your hard drive, and update your virus scanner. And change any same password wherever you use them. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. And again, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., Nick is on Wilmington's 980 The Wave and 107.9 FM with his daily political show. You can tell your Echo device to play 980 The Wave and listen to him live. Or you can go later on to nickcraig.com and listen to the recording. And Nick and Brian do the Infection podcast on Twitch every week. That's for gaming news, survival games, and some political points. Go to infectionpodcast.com and find out when is the live show, or just download the recording from there. We'll see you next week.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and deltaforce.net.